at everything, creating the poster and everything, what was your initial reaction when you got told by the committee that you were going to be creating it?
Disbelief. When I started working here in United, that was kind of like my dream job scenario. I never thought that it could lead to something like that, to be literally a part of history, a part of World Cup history, a part of the history of the city. I know to some, a poster might not seem like that big of a deal, but for me, just given my story, my life, my experiences, it just seemed like something that would never be possible. So I was super excited for sure.
And even too, like obviously just as it came out, like reading about your story, reading about the creation of it, you talked a lot about, being born in Ecuador and then immigrating here to Atlanta. With the poster, how did you incorporate a lot of those elements from your childhood as well as incorporating a lot of stuff that makes Atlanta great and incorporating all those elements? Because as we both know, Atlanta is such a diverse area and has so many different cultures involved.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, diversity is definitely always important for me to depict. Um, I've been drawing themes about Latin America in general for a while now, ever since I was in high school, just trying to communicate my culture and where I'm from to people here. When I moved to the United States, there weren't that many Hispanic and Latin kids in my classes, and so that helped me learn English more quickly. But it also, I felt like there was some of my culture missing around me, and so it was a way for me to kind of communicate that side of me. And so I've always been drawn to bright colors from back home, everywhere from the artwork that's in Ecuador to the food, parties. Everything is super bright, the landscapes, the animals, all that. And so I like to put that in my artwork often. And so in this poster, I definitely wanted to communicate bright colors, happiness, joy. That's something that brings us joy in our lives back at home. Excuse me, is the colors. So definitely the color usage, showing a diverse population, showing how this city was so accepting of me and my family when we moved here, all the great times that I've had here. And so I wanted to show that in the poster as well.
How long did the process take for you creating the poster, figuring out what you wanted to include in it, and everything else? What went into the process for that?
So the entire process was probably around 6 months. The brief came in, and we immediately started brainstorming ideas and sort of doing initial sketches. We wanted to have an approval from FIFA on a sketch early on, just so we knew that we would kind of be good to go, because there's some guidelines and stuff from their end, the things that we could show, not show. But after that, just was working on it alongside my work here at Atlanta United. So sometimes I can get very busy, as you guys know. But overall, it's been about 6 months of a process.
For you in creating it, the elements of it, incorporating, we obviously know certain things. We know that there's some other Easter eggs as well. Have other people found them as well? Have you gotten some things about things that you've included and some of those small Easter eggs that we can find in the poster?
For sure. That was an important part of it for me, is to include things that a lot of people could sort of identify with. So it's been cool to see, for example, Clark Atlanta grads have been kind of commenting about seeing Clark Atlanta on there and seeing that representation. People who live near the Rainbow Crosswalks have mentioned that. So it's nice to see that, because Atlanta is such a varied city, and even the state of Georgia has so many things about it that some people might experience that others might not. So that's been cool. And then other things that people don't pick up on initially, like the fact that the streets come together to make the panels of a soccer ball. Like that's not something you might notice at first, just because there are so many elements, which I kind of did on purpose, just so that the longer you look at it, the more, if you have this hanging in your home, you're always going to be able to look at it and kind of gain something new. So that was an example of something people, once you point that out, it's like, oh, I didn't notice that, but now I can see the pentagons and hexagons forming.
When you were kind of coming up with the ideas and brainstorming where you wanted this to go, were you kind of on this pathway straight away, or did you have some other ideas that for the overall look and feel that it didn't quite materialize? I just wonder how long it took to get to this path of how it turned out.
Right. So at first, I met with Larry, our VP of creative here, and we just kind of brainstormed words. We literally wrote down words that we thought would be important. So peach, canopy. We thought maybe like an aerial view of the city would be a good idea. But initially, I was just exploring, how do I show these themes. So how do maybe I show peaches in a different way, or thinking about who the audience is. So like, obviously people who live in Atlanta and know Atlanta well will see the poster, but maybe people who don't know anything about Atlanta will see the poster. And so how do you kind of speak to both audiences? Um, And FIFA told us that we could not show the actual trophy, but I did want to reference the trophy somehow. And so my initial idea, um, and I sketched this out, which we sent to FIFA, was creating the trophy shape out of fans that were coming out of the Oculus. And so that was sort of going to be my nod to the trophy. And that seemed like a good focal point. But the more I looked at it, the less sense it made. It just didn't seem that interesting or that related to Atlanta. And so I kind of explored sort of the more peach focus route that you see now.
Excellent. What has been the feedback from people internationally that you've talked to that have seen it, and how do they feel about it?
They definitely notice the fact that there's a diverse group of fans in there, and I think that speaks to them because when people come and visit Atlanta, is something obviously that they notice is how diverse and how big of a melting pot the city is. So that's something that people have noticed. The colors also jump out to them. I initially chose the colors from FIFA's host city palette. I just wanted that to be reflected in the poster, but that definitely is something that jumps out at them. Um, the landmarks, I think Atlanta is a pretty well-known city, and so some of the buildings, some of the things you see on there um, yeah.
That's been cool to see how people have responded to it. What has this whole process been like for you? Doing interviews and talking to folks about your creative process and being a celebrity now.
I don't know if I would call myself that, but no, it's been really cool. Definitely not used to that, but something that I'm excited to kind of take on, and it's been really cool to hear people's reaction to it. Answering questions and being able to share some more about my life has been really cool. I think I have a pretty unique sort of background in history, how I kind of came to get this job at Atlanta United, and now being able to do something like this. So it's definitely been a good experience to get to share that, and obviously my family, my girlfriend's super proud as well.
Was it a process when you get the opportunity and you start really thinking about what it could look like and what it could turn into? Was there ever a point where you kind of felt overwhelmed with like responsibility of this is something that people 50 years from now are going to see this poster and think about it? Did that enter into your head?
Yeah, I mean, immediately, honestly, when Larry came and told me that I would be doing this, I remember it was funny. He came and said, "Yeah, you're going to be doing the World Cup poster. This might be in a museum one day, so no pressure." Um, and that's just like, and it's true. It is a big responsibility, and it's also difficult to know how do you visually communicate a city as diverse as Atlanta? How do you make sure you don't leave anything out that would be important to include? How do you educate? So how do you share some history? Um, how do you represent landmarks and things that people know well, and how do you make it visually appealing and something that people would want to buy? So for sure that all definitely went into the process of creating this, and being mindful how to include a lot of elements while not making it feel too tacky, but at the same time knowing that you are catering to a large audience. And so some people might feel that it's too much, but other people might learn so much from this poster that you kind of have to, it's a little give and take there.
Knowing the city so well, has it kind of hit you being involved in this process? Like we're, months away, just a little over a year away from having World Cup games in the stadium that we're in all the time.
Yeah, it's wild. I think working in the stadium every day, you sort of maybe start to take it for granted, the building that you're in, and you get so used to just walking on the field and being surrounded by this incredible building. But I know when I bring my family from Ecuador and they visit and they come to the stadium for the first time, and seeing their reaction and just people who've never been here before, you kind of start realizing, no, like this is one of the best places in the world to play soccer. Um, and so to have this tournament that my whole life, it's been one of the main focuses in Ecuador is getting to the World Cup, making it to the World Cup. How far can we get? So just having that be such a big part of your life now, kind of mixing in with your city and being at your doorstep is crazy. So I can't believe it's, almost a year away.
We fast forward to December and the draw happens and Ecuador has a group stage match in Atlanta. What's your reaction?
I've told people that if Ecuador comes and plays in Atlanta, I don't know what I'll do. I'll go crazy. I mean, I have to be at that game because we always say like we're gonna have to find a way to go to one of these games. But if it's Ecuador, then there's no doubt, and I'm sure my whole family will want to come and be a part of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Maddie, anything else?
I mean, for me, it's kind of picking back off like the legacy. Like, has it hit you that this is gonna be a lasting legacy? This is what people will see like years later, especially when they look back at this World Cup as a whole. Has it hit you yet? Is it still kind of like in disbelief?
Yeah, there's definitely a big part of disbelief. I think I had to separate myself from that while creating it because thinking about that too much, um, is a little daunting. And so I just wanted to focus on really what the poster's goal was and kind of doing that well. But definitely talking to so many people and seeing all the reaction on social media kind of puts it into perspective, and the fact that people around the world are seeing it. So I think slowly it's going to start to sink in. But once I start to see it, around the stadium and as the games get closer, yeah, it'll definitely be more real for sure.
And then I think you also kind of hit on it, but I'll ask again as well. But I mean, being from Atlanta, being an Atlanta native, it being so close to the World Cup, I mean, what's it like for you seeing the excitement, not only, I guess, around the poster being out as now as well, but also the anticipation of everyone around getting ready for the World Cup and hopefully it being here in Atlanta and just seeing everything get really finalized?
No, it's amazing. It felt pretty far away for a while, especially since it was announced and we had Qatar, and you always knew that it was going to be coming up, and felt excited about it. But now that it's so close, and even here at Atlanta United, we're making plans around the World Cup and what that's going to look like, and knowing that the world is already has its eyes on the United States and on North America, and especially Atlanta Club World Cup being here. So yeah, no, it's crazy, and getting international fans is also something that I'm excited for Atlanta to experience. That happens a little bit when we get international matches, friendlies and stuff that come here, but World Cup is unlike anything else. And I think Copa America gave us a good taste of that, but having fans from so many different countries is going to be so exciting to have here. So I can't wait for that.
Especially, I think, with the anticipation of that, I mean, building for you, like, we've already seen a lot of, how proud people can be with their national teams and everything. How excited are you that that's going to be here? Like, we're going to be the hub. You're going to get people from all over. You're going to get people from South Korea, from Ecuador, from Peru, from Venezuela, all over the place. What's it going to be like to have all of them in one city and just be able to celebrate the beautiful game?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it'll be cool. It'll be sort of a reflection of what the city already is, but in sort of like a much more visual way. I think we all know how diverse the city is, but once you see all the different jerseys and the flags and all the face paint, and getting to see these people share in this giant party, and that like in their day to day, there's so many differences and people have so many, problems in their life or whatever. But for this one moment, for these games, for this month, people can put that aside and really come together, and support each other's teams. And as the tournament goes on and sort of countries get eliminated, you start to rally around other countries, and at least that's what I do. I always try to cheer for like Latin America or these kind of countries that you feel sort of culturally connected with beyond your borders. And I think that that's something beautiful about the tournament. So if anyone hasn't experienced that in person, like it's just going to blow them away how truly passionate fans are for this tournament.